Welcome to Founder Tactics, a podcast about entrepreneurs and the communities that shape them. I'm your host, Julia Lucidi, and today my guest is Loaiza. He is an Ecuadorian tech entrepreneur specialized in building digital infrastructure. He's actually a serial entrepreneur, so there's a lot that we could talk about the different companies that he started. But his latest two ventures have been Jello, which is a sales automation platform designed to help clients automate and control communications for serving customers quickly. And he's also the founder of Shipify, which is a smart logistics operating system that enables businesses to deploy fleets that then turn regular delivery into a prime experience. So Luis was recognized by the MIT Technology Review as one of the young innovators of Ecuador under 35 in 2015. And he's also been a part of a lot of really interesting and prestigious accelerator programs, including the Stanford Research Institute in Palo Alto, California, and SEED in Minas Gerais, Brazil. We talked a lot about his journey as a serial entrepreneur, the challenges that came with it, everything from choosing a partner and the right or wrong investors and the process of having just a ton of ideas and what to execute on. And what's really interesting is that he scaled his company across multiple borders, many different cultures. And we talked about how a cold email to Jeff Bezos landed him a contract as a strategic distributor for Amazon in Brazil. A lot of big stuff, a lot of interesting conversations about where his inspiration comes from and just his personality and what really led him to have this level of success. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on any platform which you're on right now to help us grow and also to keep you updated on our future episodes. So let's dive in. Thank you, Sir Tiago. If we need more drinks, we'll hit you up. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. We're recording.
Cool.
Surprise! Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming out here for us to have this conversation. I'm just really excited to, dive deeper into your story and share what your process has been. But a big part of what I like to talk about and what I like to bring out in these conversations is the role of community and how that has been a part of both your success and also your failures. I mean, I think that the only way that we are able to succeed and reach really cool accomplishments is by making mistakes and by failing. And I think that that process can be pretty tough. And when we have community, it can make a really big difference in that process. So I'm excited to hear a little bit more about that. And perhaps a good place for us to start for our guests who are listening, our listeners, to learn a little bit more about you. Can you share a little bit of who is Loaiza?
Sure. Thank you, Julia, for having me. And yes, I agree with you. I think the power of community, it's something that sometimes you underestimate, but definitely it's something that can give you a lot of leverage to create and build different innovations for the world, not only for a country or specific market. So, Luis Loaiza is a tech entrepreneur, almost a entrepreneurholic, I will say, because I've been creating different products through my life. I started building software when I was 13 years old. In Latin America, I was born in Ecuador, a small country in South America. Really difficult to start a tech company like in Silicon Valley, right? We were dreaming to actually build something like that. But most of the problem there is that you don't have a network of other entrepreneurs that you can learn from and that you can share ideas. So internet was my, best friend back then. And I was able to talk with people around different parts of the world. Yeah. I remember talking about real-time communication and different technologies with people in India and in the US through in the internet. So
wow,
I think
were already having that mature of conversations when like you were doing that? Because we're the same age. Like when I was 12, I was, trying to put a computer together and, playing Lemmings. I don't know if you ever remember seeing that game. It was an old computer game. I definitely wasn't thinking about connecting with people to talk about technology and ideas. You were already doing that?
I was doing that because in my mind, I was trying to build something. I wanted to build a game with real-time communication. And I started to build a chatbot in the IRC that was kind of this protocol to chat between different friends. And in high school, I got introduced to this application where you can chat with different groups from different schools. And you were able to program there. So you need to read about the programming language. And so I started reading that stuff and building things, very little and simple things, actually. But during that time, I discovered programming. And then I started to build some games in Flash. There was this Adobe Flash program to build animations, but you can also program there different games. So I started my programming career with Flash. Actually, I started building some of these games for different advertising agencies when I was at the age of 18, 19. I was still in the university. So yeah, I mean, Luis is a guy that loves to discover new knowledge, always wanting to understand more about the foundations of technology, even biology. I really like to understand really well how the system or this different systems works. So I'm very curious, and through that curiosity, I've been exploring different ideas, building different companies. And I started my first company when I was 20. Yeah, I was about to get my computer science degree. Mm-hmm. And we started this company to build these games and Facebook applications. We started as Facebook developers when Facebook opened the platform so you can build different applications. And that was very interesting because no one was doing that, at least in Ecuador, Colombia, and the surroundings, So we got pretty famous with a multiplayer game that we built. But that multiplayer game was built because I gathered some knowledge before in regards of real-time communication. So
like from the school platform that you had already kind of experienced and played around with, and you're like, correct. Hey, I think I can bring this into more of the gaming space.
Correct. So I started this because I knew that I could do it because I knew this how to build this technology.
Yeah.
And again, that was because I was also having conversations with different people around the world. Because my mom and my dad, they are medical doctors, so they don't know anything about.
Oh my gosh, you come from like a super traditional professional line of doctors. They probably thought you were crazy.
Yeah, my dad is surgeon, so and I'm pretty sure he wanted me to be, a great surgeon as well. But also he always told me, Luis, you gotta be whatever you want, and you have to be passionate about what you're doing, and then you won't need to work.
A day of your life when you love what you do.
Exactly. So do what you love, and then consequently, you will find your path, and that's what I did actually, because I start building this, different relationships with other people. And I remember that we brought people from the U.S. to organize this event about Facebook applications. And we brought people from Peru, from Colombia, from Silicon Valley as well, that they were working on different systems. And actually, we had also a presentation from someone at Playfish. There was a game studio in the UK. They had a very famous game. So imagine this guy from Ecuador, just a student, was gathering all these people from different countries to talk about this, new way to make money through Facebook applications, and presenting that to the community in Ecuador, saying, "Hey, these guys are building games in the UK. These other guys are building these other applications in Peru." And because of that, we started also receiving a lot of requests, a lot of, a lot of traction related to this type of business. So I think community is, I think it's part of what I've been doing since I started my first company. And I was also part of the Startup Weekend community.
Yeah.
Back then, there was 2000.
In Ecuador?
No, actually, I learned about Startup Weekend 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Very, early when they just started, and we decided to organize the Facebook event instead of the Startup Weekend. But later on, we did all this other startup weekends in the city. So it was very early, and I knew all these things because I was connected. I was sending emails to the. I remember I don't remember the name, but I remember sending an email to one of the founders of Startup Weekend, telling him, "Hey, I want to do something here in Ecuador." And he replied to me and he told me, "Hey, yeah, let's do it." And so that was like the kind of relationships that I was building back then, and it was exciting.
I'm pretty impressed at how much like proactivity and clarity you had at such a young age. I feel like when I was in my early 20s, I was still really trying to figure out how to pull community together and even understand like what I was capable of as a professional. I think I was still struggling with a lot of insecurities and didn't have such a clear vision of business. Like you were already saying like, "Hey, let's do this together and we can make money." And I feel like that's something special. And it makes me curious to like what kind of shaped you into being that person that already had that kind of attitude at such a young age, especially since your parents were doctors. I mean, it's not like your parents were serial entrepreneurs who you were seeing them do this kind of stuff. Like, where were these ideas coming from?
And that's a very, good question, because I've always been an introvert, and I think that the power of the internet and being behind a computer gives you like a little bit of confidence. To actually send an email, and then because they're not seeing your face and you don't feel awkward if they don't reply to you in real time, right? So I'm actually more confident when I'm behind the computer than when I'm sitting next to you or in front of you. But and I think that's part of what happened back then. I was curious and I was trying to understand how to become this, Mark Zuckerberg in Latin America. I was hearing a lot of things that were happening in this city, in this, region in the U.S., and I didn't know how I was able to be part of that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't want to put that as an excuse for other entrepreneurs, but of course, coming from Latin America, it's more difficult.
Yeah.
And it has a different level of difficulty when you come from a small country like Ecuador.
Yeah.
It's it's a very complex country. A lot of different politics and
economic instability, lack of references, lack of a strong tech community. There's a lot of things that make it.
So you needed to build it from scratch. So that's why I wanted to, connect with other people and understand how we can do this together.
Yeah.
But after that, we learned about the Startup Chile. That was this kind of accelerator from the Chilean state, the Chilean government. And we applied to Y Combinator back then, 2010. It was, I think that I did a very bad application because I've always been very focused on the technology more than in the business. Maybe it was that. Later on, when we decided to join with other business partners, we had this idea that to build an e-commerce based on this different experiences that you can do in the city, like Airbnb experiences. Mm-hmm. So we decided to build this e-commerce and launch that in Chile.
Mm-hmm. And that was part of your application for Startup Chile?
Yeah, okay. That was in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah.
2011, I guess. I don't remember the exact year. But then I went to Chile. I was living there for almost 3 years. Hustling, trying to...
There was a stronger ecosystem, though.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, the government was already supporting by, giving support through Startup Chile. Mm-hmm. Even at that time, that was specifically when I moved to Brazil and started working at Endeavor. And Chile was already, Endeavor Chile already existed. We already knew about Startup Chile and what they were doing. So the ecosystem was definitely present.
Yeah, and that was the closest thing that we had, right?
Did it feel like a big step?
Yeah, of course, because we were leaving our country for not for the first time, but for the first time to embark on an adventure, and probably thinking I'm not going back, and here is, just the beginning. And many things happened because we were wrong in the
what do you mean?
the whole, business side. I mean, we of course made a lot of mistakes in terms of building a lot of technology, but without thinking on the business model really well. And we went to a program in the Stanford Research Institute in California. And that was very, it was a kind of a tipping point for us, because we understood that we were not thinking as a business. We were just dreaming about building something cool.
Yeah.
But you can build something cool, but that's not necessarily going to become a very great business.
Do you feel like it was a lack of interaction with the market and like market feedback, talking to customers, like because obviously you, especially at that moment of your career, you were very like tech forward, like that was your greatest strength. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, I can do this. Like, this is what I'm good at. Like, let's build, like, it's going to be great. And then you go to market and it's like, and you're like, oh, wait, I think I need to approach this a little differently. So like, what were those points that you then learned? Like, what did you start doing differently after that?
Yeah, we were with this fever of collaborative consumption and sharing economy. This trend of Airbnb being successful, and then the Uberization of things that happened, after Airbnb. But we were combining this excitement for building sharing economy models plus AI and recommendation systems and complex technology that no one wants to buy. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was a lack of focus on the foundation of the problem, what problem you want to solve for the society so they can give you back value with money. And it's really simple, but back then, I didn't see it. I was kind of blind with this tech forward thinking, as you were saying. So, then we were almost broke with this business that wasn't taking off, and we understood that there was a problem in Latin America in regards with logistics. So our e-commerce wasn't thriving, but when we got some orders, we had a lot of problems delivering the products. And these were products from different entrepreneurs. It was like a marketplace. So after selling these experiences and learning that this wasn't like good enough, we were starting to sell products from these entrepreneurs, and all these products were not getting to the customer on time, and we were getting a lot of complaints through the website, and we realized that something was broken in logistics and that we need to solve it. And again, taking the idea of sharing economy, we decided to Uberize logistics. Back then in Chile.
And what do you mean by Uberize? I think let's break down that word.
So we started to talk with independent drivers, people that had a automobile, a car, a van, Fiat Fiorino, a motorcycle, and it was underused every day. So we decided to build a community, actually, of different independent drivers with different type of vehicles, different sizes, and we connect them through this platform where they receive different orders, different delivery routes, and they decided if they wanted to do the routes in exchange of money, of course. Mm-hmm. So that was the first minimum viable product that we launched, and I'm skipping the part of the fundraising that we did. We had to fundraise because we
tell us, don't skip that part. Tell us.
We didn't have money, and so I went to Colombia, to Guaira, to pitch in Guaira.
And Guaira
was the CVC of Telefonica,
okay.
the corporate venture fund. So we went there. We didn't make it. So it popped up this opportunity in Brazil, in Belo Horizonte. So the state of Minas Gerais was funding different entrepreneurs from different parts of Latin America and the world, a little bit of the concept from Startup Chile. Mm-hmm. So we applied and we made it, and we went to Brazil without.
You're like, we're going to Brazil.
Yeah. I mean, it was the only opportunity back then.
Which so many Latin American founders are afraid to do, like Spanish speaking. Latin American founders are very hesitant to come into Brazil. So I think this is really like a unique point about your story, is coming to Brazil. So what was next?
Well, coming to Brazil was really a different thing for us because, of course, it is a different culture, very similar to other countries in Latin America. But you have a different language. You have, different ways to to create relationships and build business. You have 3 major cities that probably are very different, right?
Are you talking São Paulo,
São Paulo, Rio,
Rio,
and
BH? Belo Horizonte.
So we started in BH, and I think it was amazing. I love BH. I mean, gente boa. And we start building.
They're also very hospitable.
Yes.
Because BH is considered the South, I believe, right? Belo Horizonte. People are just so like hospitable and warm, and cafezinho, queijo Minas, pão de queijo. It's just, yeah.
So it was great. I mean, for us, it was a great city to start building and introducing ourselves to the Brazilian world, Brazilian business.
And was business already conducted in Portuguese? Like, were the
we hired a couple of Brazilians to help us over, and in the business part and the marketing, the communication. So we figured it out, and then we started also learning about a little bit of Portuguese. So we launched this site. Our first site was just, of a form where you can put your address, the pickup and the delivery address, and that will send us an email, and we will put that delivery in a WhatsApp group.
Who can take this?
Who can take this, the delivery route. And that's how we started, because we also thought that this time we wanted to start very lean without building any app or, software. I was, of course, trying to see how can we start building something and connecting this different drivers. But our first approach was let's test the model, so it was totally different execution this time.
At this point, how much had it was an accelerator, right? In BH.
Yeah.
How much did they invest in the company?
It was very, very little. I think almost 20 to 30K.
Okay.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
You can't do it. You can't build anything. And we had a lot of debts from the past. So
you needed to get money in so that you could even stay in Brazil.
Correct. But, at the same time, I had some businesses happening in Ecuador.
Okay.
Because of my previous endeavors. So I had a little bit of income. My co-founder as well had a little bit of, income. So we were,
head
stable.
above water.
Yeah.
But maybe like paddling a little bit.
Correct. Of course, you don't want to be there. You want to, grow and scale, and you don't want to be distracted by lack of money, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's a big distraction.
Yep.
I don't want to change the topic.
I know that could be like a whole conversation
that's the whole
by itself.
thing. Yes,
we'll come back to
the distraction of money. But when we started, it was really exciting, and we launched in 3 months. Then we started to build the technology, getting more clients that were retailers, different businesses in
How
Brazil.
are you getting those clients?
Well, going there, talking to them, telling them that we were doing logistics in same day delivery for the first time in Brazil. Actually, we had a big competition in Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo had a lot of different startups also that were thriving, but BH and the other cities weren't really attended, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was also an important leverage for us that we started in these other cities that weren't crowded with other solutions, but they need a solution.
Of course.
You have retailers like Lojas Regi in BH and different other businesses that wanted to have fast delivery for their customers, because at the end, that experience that we learned from Amazon, right? The whole same day delivery and one click pay, those things really matter for the customer. So,
and it's also, I think it's important just to note what a significant value add that is in Brazil, in a country where customer service beyond lacks.
Yeah.
I think like Americans have no idea until they maybe move there and then experience what it's like to, like, the level of awful customer service that comes out of Brazil is like painful to endure. And the fact that you guys were able to provide a solution that, you know, supported a stronger customer service is pretty, like, huge as far as a value add to the economy.
No, yeah. And also we were building a community of independent drivers that probably weren't doing enough money with their vehicles.
This is an important question because a lot of people ask me, like, hey, I want to start a business. How do I start building a community? Like, how did you start plugging this community in to engage them? Because they're essential to your business. Like, if you don't have drivers, you don't have anybody to deliver.
Yeah.
You know, in that moment for your clients. So how did you do that first engagement?
Yeah, it was kind of a chicken or egg problem, right? Because if you don't have the community, then how you do the deliveries, and then if you don't have the clients, then what you offer to the community. So it was hard, but I think the need, it was so impressive because the market wanted this service. In one side, you have the community of independent drivers that they wanted more money for their daily living. I mean, some of they were motorboys, like they call in Brazil, that were doing their living day by day.
They're hustling
every day. So we started with them and offering them, extra cash. They were pretty happy with that idea. And then when we started to give them more, work, they started to recommend their
word of mouth
cousins, their, other family members, friends, whatever.
Yeah.
And the word of mouth was really important for us in the community. We had a lot of women doing deliveries for us.
Oh, wow.
That was a very impactful thing. We wrote stories about these different women doing deliveries, doing routes, and taking care of the packages and customers. They were like the best delivery drivers, actually.
I'm not surprised.
Statistically, yeah, because they actually take care of the whole process.
Yeah.
So it was amazing, and in the other side, you have also the need of the market. There wasn't same-day delivery for retailers. You had these other services that were focused on food delivery. Of course, food delivery has to be fast, has to be express. But when you talk about, I don't know, furniture delivery.
Or a washing machine, a television.
Yeah, big things. We talk about appliances, different products from a retailer, right? So that was a different idea. And we talk a lot with Netshoes and there's different players in Brazil that were huge. Yeah. I mean, for us, at least for us that we were coming from Ecuador, these guys were huge. They were in different cities and they need the service. So I think from both sides, the need was there. We just connected this in the right moment. And there wasn't solutions back then.
And how fast did it grow?
Well, right now we are in 200 cities in Brazil, serving different retailers. And how fast? Well, 9 years from we started in 2014. We raised capital in 2016. We raised only $1 million. Then after 1 year, we raised $600K. It was a total of $1.6 million. but the company's right now doing more than $12 million a year. Wow. And it's been growing with partners like Amazon, for example.
Please tell us that story. How did you partner with Amazon? That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a great story because we were kind of desperate to raise capital. We needed to raise because logistics is a very complex business. You need working capital because you need to pay first the delivery drivers.
Everything costs money.
And all these retailers, of course, they pay you after, 30 days, 60 days. So you got to wait and you got to keep the community happy, right? Remember that we were talking about this independent drivers that were earning their living day by day, so they can't wait 60 days to get paid.
No way. That's crazy. You would never have them stay around.
Yeah, so it was difficult. And we're, figuring out. And one day this happened through, it was like a process of 3 months, I guess. I was thinking about sending an email to Jeff Bezos. And I was telling my wife, back then she was my girlfriend, that I needed to send this email because I think that he could understand the model and the technology that we were building, and maybe he can invest on this. And I kept thinking about how I can approach this guy because he had this public email in the internet. So I knew his email. And one day I was not able to sleep, and I told my girlfriend, I have to write this email right now. I need to do this. I need to send this. So I woke. It was 1 a.m. I guess, a Sunday, and I opened my computer and I just wrote the whole email on that instance. It was like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I guess. It was very crisp with
I want to
very
read
convincing
that email.
title.
I want to read that email. What was the title?
So it was, you should learn about Shopify.
Okay.
That was the title. It was just that.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
I'm not asking.
Yeah.
So I sent the email, of course, after a few hours. I never received any reply. But I was tracking the email. So I knew that the email was being opened in different cities, actually, even in India and in Boston, Washington, Seattle, of course. I think someone replied me and told me hey, Jeff is not able to reply this email, but you can partner with us through this link. Mm-hmm. They sent me to a link to fill a form, whatever. I replied back. I don't remember what I replied back then, but after like a couple of hours, I received another email from another person that was in charge of corporate development in Amazon. And it was surprising because, and before, continuing, my co-founder, I told my co-founder about this. He told me, Jeff, he will never reply to you that you're dreaming. Of course, that's insane. But I received an email saying, "Hey, Luis, we want to learn more about Shopify. Let's have a call."
From the corporate development team?
Yeah, from the corporate development team. Let's have a call during this week. So we have the call the same week. I think it was Thursday or Wednesday.
You must have been over the moon.
I was freaking out. I didn't know what
sleep for 7 nights.
Yes, it was crazy, and we were jumping, but at the same time we were scared. We thought, a lot of different emotions. So after months, long story short, my proposal was to receive some investment from Amazon, of course, but they weren't investing in logistics in other companies in Latin America back then. But they decided to structure with us a contract that part of this contract is kind of a warrant agreement where they can buy shares from Shopify with a vesting schedule based on different milestones. Part of those milestones are spending deliveries with Shopify in Brazil and in Latin America. So it was a contract of more than $100 million. It was like the first big thing that we did. It was hard. At the same time, we learned a lot. And right now, Amazon is one of our main clients in Brazil. We are serving them in different cities, dozens of cities in Brazil, and we're doing that with great performance. Our team has been building this model that really works with great unit economics and a great technology that kind of orchestrate everything so we can deliver packages on time with a great quality of service. So Amazon and other customers are happy. Yeah. So I think that's
so cool.
Great things that we have done.
I love it that you cold emailed despite the chances, possibly being low, but having
probably.
What do you lose?
Probably was luck. I don't know. But yeah, what you lose? I think it was something that I needed to do. And I was very convinced that they needed to know more about what we were doing.
Yeah, like this is going to help them kind of thing. Like it's not like I'm asking for a favor.
No.
This is going to be critical for the growth of your business. Correct. And you need me.
And now we are one of the most important partners of Amazon Logistics in Brazil.
Yeah, I think people get very frozen up by like titles and popularity and grandeur and success, and sometimes can distance themselves because they're like, oh, well, I'm not at Jeff Bezos' level, so why am I going to reach out to them? But at the end of the day, we're all people. We're all just we're just normal people that like to like have a drink and have a nice conversation and do great business. And so if you have value to add, it doesn't matter.
And sometimes you need to do that because I remember by that time we were trying to reach out the Amazon Brazilian team, right? So we can make business, but they were ignoring us. So the best way to do it is, okay, let's hack it. Let's go to the main guy.
Let me tell you, that is like the best strategy. Like the team can ignore. As soon as the CEO sends one message, it's like, like the answers come back so fast. It's amazing.
I don't know if I will never know. I think that I'm really curious about what happened that day in Amazon. But it's really interesting because I don't know if Jeff really read that email and then forwarded to a different guy. But I know that he had like different members from his team that were reading his emails or something like that. I don't know. And but the good thing was that it was kind of magical. It was really interesting that he, or Amazon in this case, got interested in this approach.
Yeah. Congrats on doing that. I think it's a super cool story and encouraging for me to hear personally, for sure. And so whenever you started working in Brazil, did you go through a culture shock?
like not a culture shock. I won't say a shock because I'm also Latin American, and we have a lot of similar things in Ecuador. Believe me. I mean, of course, when you see Brazil and Mexico, kind of you maximize the problems that you see in smaller countries.
Oh, I see. Like it's like problems at scale. Correct.
So the same problems like corruption and, different other social problems, but in a bigger scale. But also at the same time, you have bigger opportunities.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Yeah, that's the counterpart. So yes. I think that you have to see that whenever I was arriving to Sao Paulo in the airplane, you can see the whole skyline and the city. And I was thinking, man, I mean, these guys are big. I mean, you can, of course, at least sell, I don't know, toilet paper and you will be
loaded.
A millionaire. So, and then you can see it one day, a Sunday in the Avenida Paulista, right? And you can see all these people just walking around and
it's impressive.
Of course. I mean, you have a lot of people and
it feels like New York.
Correct. I mean, it's there in South America. And probably no one is seeing the opportunity. They're just seeing the bad thing.
I really appreciate you sharing that perspective because I was raised outside of Brazil, right? In the U.S., in Mexico when I was a child. So I didn't have idea and awareness about difficulties and the problems of an economy. And I moved to Brazil when I was 23 for the first time because I wanted to get to know my culture. I wanted to speak Portuguese better. I wanted to samba. I wanted to live and breathe Brazil and see what it was like. And one of the really kind of discouraging parts of my experience living in Brazil was just how negative the attitude was towards the problems. You know, like, and I understand, like, it's heavy. You know what I mean? And I realize that I have the privilege of living in the United States and that I'm a U.S. citizen and that I can come back and, you know, that I can come and go. But I think that the way that we perceive things and the way we look at problems really impacts, I think, the way we see solutions, the way we can build solutions, the way we can like experience life and feel more positive about it. Because there was like a lot of negativity, both on politics, on the problems, on the health problems, on the education problems. And I think being alongside people that are solution oriented was such a game changer for me. And obviously when I worked in Brazil, I had the opportunity to work with really top level, incredible people. I mean, I would tell you that till this day, I carry their example with me. Like, the people who I've worked with and remembering the attitudes that they had, the posture that they had, the creativity, the zeal, the hunger that they had to evolve as a person. That's something that I carried with me forever. But I would say that it's definitely a very challenging country and culture where an attitude like that is really valuable.
Correct. You say the word that my co-founder used to love this word in Portuguese. That's fome.
Yeah,
right?
Hunger.
And I mean, you see that in Latin America. You have a lot of hunger, fome, you know, and you want to thrive. You want to solve things because, I mean, I will say the majority of things are broken.
Yeah.
And I was telling you about logistics, but then we see banking, for example, is another thing. All the financial sector, it's broken in my perspective. There's a lot of legacy infrastructure there. Of course, Brazil actually is one of the best on infrastructure right now.
I was about to ask you, like, are you talking about banking in Brazil? Because they know how to make, they know how to secure money. That is one thing that We even joke that like a corrupt
Correct.
country knows how to secure money.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Brazil is an example of course, innovations in banking and the financial system. They have PIX, and that's
like a quick PIX is like a quick transfer by using like, I guess it would be very similar to kind of what we do with Zelle here in the US.
yes, but it's based on the foundation is based on the a system that is kind of endorsed by the central bank. So it's kind of different.
It's associated to like your CPF there.
Yeah.
Or CPF would be your social.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you know how it works? Like explain it to me because I don't.
So it's like you can send money over like Zelle, and you can send money to one bank account to another. It's like a 8-to-8 payment.
Yeah.
And the good thing is that it, like I was saying, it is part of the central bank, so it doesn't belong to a specific private bank.
Oh, so that's
it's an open protocol.
Oh, gotcha.
Correct. So, and that thing wants to be replicated in different other countries. And I was listening to a fintech podcast here in the U.S. They were saying that not even the U.S. you have that kind of thing. It was a great example of something that should be made. Because
what are the benefits of it being operated by the central bank of Brazil?
I'll say that the benefit is you have a standard, and number two, you have the security that process is going to be protected by this entity that, of course, is the government, and also it will make this process cheaper because you don't need to pass through a bank, and this is not something that they will leverage as part of their business, right? Because part of the business of a bank is charging you fees for transactions. So in this case, if you open the protocol through the central bank, in this case, I mean, it is a standard that every other bank should follow.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So I think, we were talking about these different issues in Latin America, and I think there's a lot of opportunities as well. So.
Yeah. So after Shipify, you went on to start another company, right?
Yeah. I mean, in parallel, I back in Ecuador, when I was in Brazil, like I was telling you, I had different side businesses that were based on software. And one of this side business, or another business, I will say, because part of my life was of this, path through different failures and successes of businesses. I founded Cryptex. That was this B2B secure messaging application. And we started that business because when I started my first company and I was working with this real-time communication technologies, I wanted to build a messaging app, kind of a little bit. It was kind of the same as WeChat in Asia, right? I don't know if you know WeChat, but this messaging app in China, it is a super app, right? You can do everything through
Is it kind of like WhatsApp on steroids?
Yeah, correct. But before WhatsApp.
Okay.
So we had that picture, and we wanted to do that here in the region. And then we started building things, and then we put encryption on it, end-to-end encryption. We raised capital as well, and And at the same time, I was going to Brazil, but I had this other endeavor. So it was really difficult. That's why I started saying that I was kind of an entrepreneur because I wanted to do a lot of things at the same time. That was a bad idea. I was CTO of 2 teams back then. Oh, wow. And I don't know if the whole idea is bad, but I think the time management was bad.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it very well. In consequence, I had to leave Cryptex and focus on Shopify. But I pivoted the Cryptex, not the Cryptex idea, but pivoted the business model, and I started building these chatbots for banks. So our first client was a bank in Ecuador that we built for them this chatbot so their customers can ask for their information from their bank account. They can actually pay their bills, their like utility bills through their through Facebook Messenger. It was very intuitive, and you don't need to download any application, any mobile application. It was connected securely through our platform to the core of the bank, and then we added WhatsApp as a new channel. Before WhatsApp opened the APIs, we kind of hacked the system, and it was a very risky movement, actually, but it became the most popular chatbot in Ecuador back then. So we started that company. That company was bootstrapping until 2022. By the end of the 2022, after pandemic, during pandemic we grew a lot until we reached $1.7 million in revenue, annual revenue. In total, bootstrapping, we were doing like $5 million, more or less, in the whole history of the company. We built that company from scratch without any money. It was just know-how from the past, understanding how to do something, from my really young learnings of chatbots when I was 13 years old, and adding some AI and of course the encryption, the security, and the infrastructure, basically. So I think that we did an amazing job, because bootstrapping a company without putting any money, and getting to pass the $1 million milestone was great. And then we decided to raise capital because we understood that chatbots were proliferating all across the region. There were a lot of different players, competitors, building chatbot platforms. So that's when I decided to leave Shopify a year ago. And right now I'm serving as chairman of the board, and we, restructure the whole governance of the company. It was time, 9 years, in the company. And I think it was healthy as well, because we were given opportunity to people that were also part of the founding team. This first employees in Brazil that right now are leading the company, and they're doing really well. So,
did you feel like you were ready for a new challenge, being that you have the entrepreneurial profile? Because 9 years, you're now like talking about a pretty solid company, a business that you know really well, in and out. So did you want something that would challenge you again? Is that what drove part of your decision?
Yes. I think I needed a new challenge, and I think the majority of my motivation was that I really wanted to build this new platform based on my old ideas when I was a teenager and when I was starting to program software. And I've always been passionate about chat systems and communication. I don't know why. I mean, that's part of what I love, and games as well. So I think this was my opportunity to start a new thing, change the direction of a company that was doing well, bootstrapping, but it wasn't competitive in the region, right? It was a solid company in Ecuador, and I was working in the logistic industry and doing a lot of different things in Brazil and Chile. But I really needed to do this. That was also my passion, right? Like I wanted to finish this other thing that I started a long time ago, adding new technologies that I was learning by the time. So I think it was this mix of a new challenge and also taking back an old passion related to real-time communication.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's more that you want to talk about, Jello, but I have some questions like more related to like partnership, investor relations. Is it cool if we take it that way? Okay, cool. Because I know that you have brought on investors and you've also bootstrapped. And I recall from our previous conversation that the investor relations side can be like great, and it can also be really difficult. And what have been, I guess, some of the learnings that you've had in working with investors? Because I think that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are super eager to like get an investor on board and perhaps rush the process, or, kind of like when you're in love, you overlook like a lot of the flaws or possible challenges. And then when you're in that relationship, you're like, okay, now these things are present and we need to work through them. Like, what can you share about that world and that experience?
Yeah, I think when you are young and starting your first company, you think, okay, let's raise capital and let's build something new and amazing with money from a different folk. So that's, money doesn't come like without a trade-off. So I think that you really need to understand why are you receiving this money and from who you are receiving this money. You really need also to know your partner in this case, because an investor is your business partner, and he needs to be excited as well. He needs to be excited with the business, with you. And I think of course investors they want to put money on things that they are excited about and when they really like the founders. But as a founder, sometimes you're kind of blind because you just want to receive money from anyone, probably because you're more focused on let's get the money and let's build. But sometimes when you receive that money, of course, it is a responsibility. You got to think about the long-term relationship and how you're going to handle difficult times. And you never know people when difficult times happen, right? Sometimes when you first know a person, your relationship is not based on struggling times. It's probably the first time that you meet and everything it's nice. You'll, get along and everything. But when things get difficult and stress comes, then different personalities. So that's not something that you anticipate when you receive money, and that's, of course, something that you need to be aware of.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that because it's gonna be always difficult to know somebody really well, even in a year.
I feel like that's part of business, is learning how to accept the decisions that you've made with the people that you've made, whether or not you love them or like the way they do business. Let's put that more professionally. And following through with your commitment and knowing how to communicate differences. I feel like that's a big part of developing yourself as a professional. And perhaps knowing when to step away is really important too. But of course, in an investor relationship, that's much more complex.
It is. And you have said something important, that is communication. I think part of our learnings been how can you communicate effectively, not only to your team internally in the company, but also to different stakeholders that can be customers, clients, but also shareholders, right? Investors, note holders. I think that communication is key. Transparency is key. And when you fail to communicate effectively, of course, you leave a space to imagination and to different predictions that the brain wants to do. I'm talking about, what investors might think when you do or when you take a decision.
Yeah.
So you have to be very transparent and effective. It's difficult. I think that was one of the things that we learned, that we needed to do better. But I can tell you right now that I have a great relationship with all my investors.
Yeah. So I was just looking up something that I took note of today, because I was hanging out with an entrepreneur who's also a good friend. And he said he's reading a book by Jeff Bezos, which I thought might be interesting to you. If maybe you haven't already heard of it, it's called Invent and Wander. And it's a book, and it's a compilation of letters that Jeff Bezos sent to his investors over the years, of updates on the company's performance, the strategy, the culture, the communication, how they deal with clients, how they put clients first. And I thought that was fascinating to be able to look into, peep into the communication that was between such a successful entrepreneur and his investors. I think that could be really telling.
Yes. Yeah, of course. I've heard about it.
You have? Okay.
Yeah, but I haven't read it. I do think that you have to be always engaging all your type of customers. I think the investors are one type of those customers, right?
Your partners are a type of customer.
Yeah. So I think that's an important thing to do. And Bezos really, Bezos always says this: you gotta be crisp when you say something. So one of his advices is it's better to write kind of an essay of what are you thinking and planning, because that exercise gives you the opportunity to actually really understand if you know what you're talking about, right? Because sometimes you can and there's a lot of this kind of entrepreneurs, right, that are very good to in being like really like socially they are good, right? They are likable. They're someone that you're charming, yes, and everything. But when you really wanted to understand the idea behind what they are communicating, there's a lot of, inconsistency.
Yeah.
And
so do you practice that? Do you do a lot of writing and thinking about your vision, where you're going?
Yeah, I try.
What does that look like?
So I use a lot of Notion. So I have all my notes there.
Is that an app?
Notion it's kind of an app. It's a kind of a platform where you can put different notes, and our company has its wiki in Notion. So we have a wiki of different knowledge of the company, and we write a lot of documentation, right? So a lot of these different concepts and ideas that we want to build, and that we also want to communicate. And one of the things that I also know about myself is that I have great ideas, but for me, it's been difficult to communicate them because sometimes I don't have. I have them in my mind, but I don't know how to put them into paper. It's like I know that this is going to work, but sometimes you miss a link, you miss a connection of step 1 with step 3 with step 2.
And when you write it down, do you feel like you start making those connections and seeing the gaps?
Yeah, correct. Or at least when Bezos actually talks about wonder, he talks about the process of wondering. It's not about having a meeting and getting the solution in an hour. I think, and I agree with him, imagination and creativity, something that it's a process. Sometimes it can take days. You can take a walk, maybe in the shower. I don't know. But it takes an amount of time where you need to be open to new things, to different perspectives, to talk with different people. So sometimes I have this idea and I talk with friends, my wife, and I ask them about feedback. Of course, you got to filter your feedback.
Yes.
but it's important because that shapes your idea. Of course, you and we go back to community. You need to also be open to hard feedback. You need to be open to different perspectives.
Yeah.
And also be confident that the foundation of your idea is the most important thing, but then you have all these different shapes that you can, start thinking about and that will give your idea a stronger, embodiment, I will say.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it sounds like you seek a lot of feedback pretty actively, which is such an important quality, I feel like, to create better ideas, but also better relationships. I feel like having feedback and having an honest conversation with people allows for you to establish a stronger connection. Of course, how that feedback is delivered matters a lot. I actually read something recently this week where it said, whenever you're giving feedback, always make it a priority to make sure that that person knows that you are for them. Mm-hmm. Like you are for them. Like you want them to win, you want them to do well. And that should be your priority before giving someone a difficult feedback, because feedback is tough. It's about pointing out things that are not great about you and that you need to work on. So it can be, a little uncomfortable. But I have gotten feedback from some of the closest people in my life that just came in such a caring way that even though it was difficult to hear, it produced so much fruit in my life because it came from a place of a lot of love and respect. And I think that's so important when engaging in feedback.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that if you include love in feedback, I mean, that's the best way to deliver it. It's hard to give feedback and also to receive sometimes because you can be on denial, right? In terms of your ideas, you can be stubborn and probably blind. So it's really important to surround yourself with people that can give you candid and transparent feedback. It's the only way for you to grow and be a better person. I do think that not everyone knows how to handle feedback, and not everyone knows how to build on top of that, right? So because it's hard, you gotta deny yourself first, that sense, or rethink or relearn or even forget foundations of things that probably were truth to you, right?
Wow.
And that's a programming that you have. So you have to, reprogram your brain, and that's super hard. No one teaches us these things to reprogram ourselves, to rewire our brains. So it's not easy, of course.
Yeah, I'm always looking for personal improvement, and I'm a Christian, so I read the Bible, I pray. It is probably one of my biggest kind of yearnings is just coming to God in prayer and desiring to understand how I can, improve. And in my personal walk, my desire is to honor God, in everything that I do. And there's a lot of things in our lives and in our hearts that are hidden in different ways that we don't see them, And interestingly enough, my process of building my company has been so revealing of, my own challenges. And one of my really close friends, she used to be my boss, and we continued being friends. And we've been very, very close friends, since the beginning of my career. And she's been an incredible inspiration to me too. And one of the people who have given me the hardest feedbacks of my life. I won't tell the whole story, but one time I almost got fired, and it was by giving this they were giving me this feedback of you're underperforming. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I was like, I want to stay. And I flipped my performance and started doing better. And she was like, whoa, I've never seen anybody take feedback that way. And so she's always been somebody who I knew I could go to for feedback. And when I started my company, she challenged the way I was relating to money and how money was guiding me emotionally during my process of building my company and guiding me in my decision-making and blinding me in many ways. And I just found that it was very hard to hear from her, but it came from such a place of love. And I really saw it as an answer to prayer because God uses people. I don't know what your walk of faith is, but for me, this is my experience that God uses people and people of different walks, of different faiths, to speak into your life and to help you understand, places where you need improvement. But I do think that it happens when you're looking for it. I don't think that you're open to feedback, and you need to be open to it. I don't think it's necessarily going to come naturally. Much to the contrary, I think we reinforce our beliefs all the time. It's
part of our programming.
It's part of our programming. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Talking about, the connection between, computer programming and our own internal programming. And so I'm very intentional in wanting to program myself to be focused on, higher things and not focus so much on material things. And that allowing me to be free to do my best with the material things, because the material things don't define me.
Yeah, of course.
So it's this constant like tug and pull that I like personally experience.
It's great. I mean, like you were saying, sometimes it is revealing, and you don't realize. I mean, it's not right away. It's a process, like the wondering of new ideas. Is this new idea of changing your beliefs, right? So it's like, really, I believe that I was doing great, that this was the right thing to do. Yeah. But then, no, it is not, right? Or probably, in my case, I've learned a lot of things from my behavior that were programmed by different situations, of course, how I was raised, or how my parents, treat me. Nothing, dramatical on this, but of course, everything influences you. Even a teacher, a math teacher in school can influence you a lot and probably get you excited about math. And so all these things are part of epigenetics, right? We're talking about that shape your behavior, shape your kind of the DNA of your personality.
Yeah.
And when you mature, you realize that part of this programming isn't good for you,
right?
Isn't good for the rest of the people that right now you are interacting with.
And I think that distinguishing between, okay, this programming benefits me, let me double down on this. Like I'm extremely disciplined. It's like in my DNA. And then there's like other programming, like perhaps like you said, things people have said to you or that have been more negative, and having the maturity to be like, okay, like I can separate myself from that. Are there specific people in your community that have played kind of a pivotal role in being a mirror to you, as far, it can be feedback or just like support through difficulty? I think we've talked a lot about community and how community has played a role in different ways for the formation of like your ideas. But you personally, like there's our business ideas, but there's also like us as human beings who, suffer with the difficulties and rejoice with, the successes, and those ups and downs can come at a great emotional cost. And like, who are the people who have been a part of your community? Or it can be people, it can be organizations, mentors. I don't know. Who has been a part of your community that has supported you in that way?
Well, first, my parents, I will say that you always have, I don't know, I have the privilege to have them alive. And my father is, I will say, my best example in life. He's very wise. He is very different from me.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing, because I give him a different perspective and he gives me his perspective, right? I think he's brilliant, and he has the right word sometimes when I am struggling with something business related. Often it's business related.
Yeah.
Or in a situation with a co-founder, he always has the right words. And so I've learned a lot from him. Even though he doesn't understand, business.
He doesn't have to.
Yeah. He just knows human relationships.
Yeah.
And that's I think the key point here, because business are basically people working together, right? And I've learned a lot from people that have heard me as well. I think that sometimes you're not open to say this, but I've been disappointed by business partners, by probably a girlfriend, whatever. But you learn a lot from them. Sometimes you think they wanted to do something bad to you, but it's not. It's just a programming, a behavior that impacted you in some way, a pattern that they had that wasn't compatible with you and that hurt you and disappointed you. But they weren't waking up every day saying, I want to hurt Luis.
Right.
I want to hurt Julia, No, that isn't their, their thought process. I've also learned a lot from my wife. I think that she's amazing. She's my emotional mentor, I will say. Sometimes you need that right partner. So
sometimes
every day, I would say, to hear the encouraging voice, you got this, don't.
Keep your head up.
Yeah, it is something important because, of course, in this journey of entrepreneurship, building companies, you are often alone in the whole journey. Even if you have a co-founder, he's not there every day, probably understanding what's happening at home, what's happening at office at the same time, or basically your thoughts can be different. So I think that it is very important to choose the right partners for the right moments, right?
Yeah.
And that's not easy, of course. And entrepreneurship is not for everyone as well. You need to be very strong mentally and emotionally because it's hard.
Yeah, I would even say that entrepreneurship needs to align with your values, because it's not that having a full-time job and being an employee isn't hard. I think there's a ton of super hardworking people who give blood, sweat, and tears for their company, but it's a matter of values. Like, I think that, yes, you need to be ready to endure a lot of hardship, but also, like, do you value freedom? Do you value freedom of creativity? Do you value wandering in entrepreneurship? Like, are these things that are really, really important to you? And if that process is of an extremely high value to you, you're likely going to take the risk associated to entrepreneurship in order to prioritize what's most important to you. And that's what happened to me personally. And I got to a point in my career where the risk of entrepreneurship was more important than the security of having a salary. And then taking that step into entrepreneurship and, of course, managing all the emotions that came with it.
Yeah. No, of course, taking risks are the hardest things to do, because you can take risk in not only in entrepreneurship, but also in different, periods of your life, right? For example, leaving a country and going to a different place, to a new adventure, or to a new job. I don't know. I mean, you are always, the human beings want to be secure, and they want to predict a lot. They want to have control on the future of things. So you don't want to have uncertainty. That is not part of your programming as a human being.
Yeah.
You want to be alive, right? So you want to predict everything that's coming right away. So when you do this unpredictable things, you're taking risks, and of course, you put a lot of adrenaline and different neurotransmitters in your brain that will trigger different emotions.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that you have to have the emotional gadgets. Actually, there's a book, a very interesting book called Emotional Gadgets, I think.
Oh, nice.
You gotta have that. So you can handle the situations when you are taking these decisions and these risks.
Yeah, no, that's super important. I'll have to check out that book. We've been on for almost an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Wow. Yes.
This has been a really lovely conversation. So thank you so much. And how can people reach out to you if they want to connect with you?
Well, yeah. I mean, thank you very much for the invitation, for having me here. It's been a great conversation. I mean, we can just keep talking about everything. Well, you can reach me out through my email. It is Luis@Jelou. It's JELOU.ai. And also I have a Twitter account where I put a lot of different ideas. That's my handle is LUIS, Luis, Loaiza, LOAIZA. So you can just follow me there and we can probably chat sometime and have a conversation.
Send them a cold email.
Or send a cold email, yes.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up for our conversation today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. Yeah. Bye-bye.
All done. And that wraps up another interview of the Founder Tactics podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your support and for listening. We hope you're enjoying the podcast and enjoying these interviews and just leaving super inspired about what's possible for you as well. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can stay updated on all of our future episodes, and we will see you next time.